Good morning to you all. Welcome again to the board members present, as well physically as online present. Welcome also to the members of the staff of the DAISY Consortium. And of course, very welcome to our observers today. As you might have noted, we have a very packed agenda, so that doesn't give us the time and the occasion to make a round. So we skipped the round. And so please socialize in the breaks. So let's start with our agenda. The first item on our agenda is the eBraille specification. Nicole will tell us more about that. And after that, I will ask the board members for the formal endorsement of these specifications. Nicole, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Don't know if are we okay on the sound? Okay. So good morning. I am here this morning to give an update on eBraille. I'm actually sitting in for Willow Free of the American Printing House for the Blind. This is going to be a high level kind of update. And I just want to let folks know if you have more in-depth technical questions, I'm happy to help with those. But just probably we would need to connect after the presentation. As Martin mentioned, we don't have a lot of time today for questions. So what I do want to provide is just kind of an update on the current status, making eBraille, reading eBraille, and then future development with kind of a focus on the 2026 roadmap. So we're super pleased to let folks know that the eBraille 1.0 specification was published in August of 2025. Also this year, DAISY has developed the eBraille check, which was based on their work with EPUB check. eBraille support has been added to the DAISY pipeline. And in terms of APH and its multi-line refreshable Braille device, the 1.2 update for the first time added support for eBraille files. And the first publicly available eBraille file, which is of Treasure Island, is available and has been released. So where we are today with regard to making eBraille, the DAISY pipeline can already convert print files to the eBraille format. On the APH side, we're still working with DAISY to hopefully develop some additional functionality for working with tactile graphics. We also have the APH BRF to eBraille converter, which will be open source. If anyone is interested in testing that or working with it, please reach out to me. But we're excited. This is actually going to be the tool that we use to pilot eBraille to children in schools in the U.S. Other developments that are underway in regard to making eBraille is Duxbury is adding support for Save as eBraille with a target date of the end of this year. At APH, we are also working to add this same support to Braille Blaster. And Sao Mai Braille has also committed to supporting eBraille and will be beginning that development soon. So very excited about that. In terms of reading eBraille, again, the Monarch at APH is the first multi-line Braille display to support eBraille. We are hoping that additional devices will be forthcoming. In terms of single-line displays, we also have some other devices that have support in development or can utilize eBraille in a current beta. eBraille can also be opened in a browser and rendered on a Braille display using screen reader software that requires a little bit of tech savvy in terms of changing the file extension, unzipping, and so forth, but that is another option for accessing the content. APH is also going to be working on an eBraille reader. This is going to be based on an open source browser, and this is actually more designed for Braille producers to give an easier way to proofread eBraille in the production. It's not actually primarily designed for end users, but it will include a navigation pane, file opening, and the ability to set artificial margins for the proofreading. And we also continue to advocate for more support in new Braille displays. With regard to future development, we are working on exemplars for eBraille in order to kind of let both software vendors and reader vendors understand the format by having some examples of well-formatted eBraille. We are working on full support for CSS from a tactile reading system um, to kind of explore the assumptions about that using actual hardware. And we do want to thank folks from the eBraille working group as they provided the original files for producing the eBraille exemplars. Priorities for 2026, they include reviewing the complex formatting needs of Music Braille, also reviewing challenges and requirements of multi-rendition files, Braille, print, audio in one package. That's something that some stakeholders have expressed that they're very interested in, so we'll be looking into that. Also, developing software to make reading eBraille files with an older display easier. Advocating for more support in hardware and software, especially support for embossing. You may recall that one of the goals of the eBraille work was to not only support multi-line Braille devices, but also to support single-line devices as well as embossing. And then also, finally, for 2026, a goal is to refine CSS and other aspects of eBraille based on feedback from folks. So that is my update. And I think we may have just a couple minutes for questions if anyone has a quick question.
Yeah,
Flavia.
thank you, Nicole. You did very well in
thank you.
the short time that we have. And although you are hearing back yourself,
Yes,
but we will fix that within a minute.
no problem.
Flavia, you will have a question.
I don't have a question. I just have a huge thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions or remarks? No? So then I will ask you for the endorsement of this eBraille specification that Nicole just has presented to us. Do the board members endorse this specification? Yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Great.
okay, great. Thank you,
so
Nicole.
much.
Next up on the agenda is user requirements for DAISY reading apps and handing over to Kirsten from Dedicon.
Yes, thank you, Richard. I noticed, unfortunately, that my internet might not be stable, so I hope that the presentation will go smoothly, but I'll start and let me know if anything is wrong. I'm sharing my screen now, if I'm correct, so I hope you see my presentation in order. And if I don't hear anything, I'll just go ahead. So thank you to the board for having me present our work on the reading apps user requirements. I'd like to give you bring back into memory the project that we've been working on. The background of the project is that at Dedicon we noticed that certain users want more from their reading experience, and we also heard this from other organizations. Things that people would like to do is to be able to switch more easily between audio and text. They want to have image descriptions, but also be able to hide them if they don't want to see them. And one of the things that our users want is to be able to fill in answers in the publication itself. Unfortunately, current reading systems, even though they are very much loved, do not support all of the requested functionalities. So almost to the day, a year ago, Dedicon put a proposal for a project to the DAISY board, which was approved in December 2024. And we started a project to define an internationally agreed set of user needs for reading apps. It focused on software, not on hardware, and also on specialized apps for people with print disabilities, but we feel that mainstream app developers can benefit from the work as well. So I'm happy to report that on October 31st of this year, the first version of our user requirement specification has gone live on the DAISY Consortium website, and I'll say a little bit more about the specification itself in a minute. But first, how did we get there? Immediately after the approval by the board, we organized a kickoff meeting in December 2024. And in January, we started a series of weekly or bi-weekly online group meetings, which have continued until October, interrupted a couple of times by periods of review, giving the editors time to work on the document. In June, we also had separate meetings with certain app developers about the technically challenging theme of filling in answers. And in October, we had our final period of review for our release candidate, which and as I said, we released the specification at the end of October. Before I go into the specification, I'd like to say a little bit more about the people who were involved. We were happy to have representation from many organizations and countries. They came from user organizations, accessible content providers, specialized app developers, and also accessibility experts. And people were really passionately engaged. We were delighted to have very nice discussions. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank everybody in this meeting as well. Thanks to everybody who was involved for sharing their expertise in thoughtful contributions, discussions, and feedback. So what do we have now? We have a specification live on the DAISY website. I included the full address in the slides that we will be sharing, but we also made short URLs to be able to share them in presentations. To go to the landing page, the address is https://daisy.org/reading-URS. And to go to the specification directly, it's https://daisy.org/s/reading-URS. This specification includes over 120 user requirements. They're ordered by 11 themes, such as navigation, read aloud, embedded audio, bookmarking, entering answers, and bookshelf and library management. And we also added a section, an additional section of user requirements for future consideration. These are 18 ideas that we identified as very valuable, but we could not prioritize them in the current cycle. They could be a nice starting point for future work if anyone wants to take that challenge up. And one of the examples is integration of AI-powered features. We also developed 18 user stories and included an executive summary. Unfortunately, I don't have time to show the resource in detail, but I would like to invite everyone to look at it. We also worked on the presentation and have a navigable table of contents in the sidebar, which makes it much more accessible. And we're very proud to present this work. And not only we are proud, but we are happy that we also hear nice comments from others who have not been involved. I added a few citations. From Google, we heard, we appreciate that you sharing this with us. The user stories are wonderful to read through. Another one is, this is fantastic. It's comprehensive, well-structured, clearly written, and best of all, authoritative from Bill Kasdorf. And from one of the specialized app developers, we heard, thanks to everyone who contributed to this fine document. We have already included it in our product development roadmap. And that is, of course, what we were hoping for. So I'm really happy with that. To finish my presentation off, what's next? We still have a few steps of our dissemination plan to execute. And the final thing is what I would like to do now, which is one of the most important things about this presentation. I'd like to put the motion to the board to formally approve our specification. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Kirsten. That was a very good overview of the work that you and the working group has done on the specifications for the reading system. There is time for a few questions if there are any questions. Not at the moment. So then my question to you, to the board members is, do we endorse these requirements?
Yes, we do.
Yes. Okay, so that has been done. So the requirements are endorsed by the DAISY board.
And thank
So
you
let's
to
hope that we'll get.
Dedicon. Martin,
Yes, Thomas.
thank you to Dedicon for doing all this work. It's terrific.
It was our pleasure, but it was not only our work, but it
Yeah,
was our
okay,
pleasure
for the
to
whole
do so.
group. Sorry. Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. Thank you, Thomas. And thank you, Kirsten, of course. So that brings us to the next item, which is on artificial intelligence for DAISY members. Richard, can you introduce this item to us?
Thank you, Martin. So there are several items in this block. This will take us up to the refreshment break and beyond. I will start with reporting on the findings from the Artificial Intelligence and DAISY members survey, and then we will hear about converting from scanned and PDF content, AI for voice, and AI for image descriptions. And we will hear many contributions from DAISY members on this tour of some amazing work that's going on. So I'm going to speak about the DAISY AI survey, which concluded just a few days ago. Thank you to the 23 members who contributed with their opinions, information and requests in that. In the shared slide deck, there are more slides, but for the purpose of time, I'm just going to highlight some. So the survey reveals that DAISY members are already urgently employing and experimenting with artificial intelligence. The key and most popular areas of use relate to text-to-speech and image descriptions, but in fact it revealed that members are experimenting with the application of artificial intelligence in many other areas. And rather than read through the bullet points on here, why don't I use AI to do that for me?
AI-driven reading assistance, Braille production, complex content, document format conversion, easy read, tactile images, language detection and translation, machine learning for personalized recommendations, metadata generation, software development, and speech to text.
So many applications being experimented with by DAISY members, and if it wasn't clear, that wasn't me speaking, that was AI. I cloned my voice in about 15 seconds and did that. Okay, so lots of areas. When we asked the DAISY members about their areas of interest, they were interested in all potential areas of applications for AI, particularly for content generation, for content conversion, also for testing and for user experiences, improving user experiences. The three most popular were content conversion, complex content, and image description. And we'll hear more about each of these areas in the session today. Challenges, we asked about these. The top three challenges, these echo the findings from last year: integration with existing systems, lack of technical expertise, data privacy, or ethical concerns. We got some quotes too from folk, always richer than just getting responses on the multi-choice. So here are a couple of quotes.
It's great to see DAISY facilitating these conversations and information sharing.
We also heard,
Continued support, training, and sharing best practices by DAISY members will help libraries implement AI effectively and improve accessibility for all patrons.
we heard very clearly through the responses in the questionnaire that folk were looking to DAISY, that's the staff, but also the wider group of organizations participating in our community at a time when they are worried about some of the issues that I mentioned earlier. We want to learn together, explore together, and deal with these challenges together. So we'll continue to do that as the DAISY Consortium. So the recommendations for what we should put our energy into is facilitating knowledge exchange, further integrating AI into DAISY tools, advocating for affordable solutions, and addressing ethical considerations. So let's get to it then on some of those areas. And the first area of the application of AI is on AI voices. And we'll hear now from Nicholas from the Acapella Speech Group, a DAISY friend for many years. And Nicholas hopefully is online and is able to share his screen and audio and will tell us about how Acapella is leveraging AI for their voice applications. Nicholas, do we have you?
Good morning all. This is a presentation about AI at Acapella Group for about 10 minutes, and I'm going to illustrate what we do at Acapella in that respect. So my name is Nicolas Mazars. I've been at Acapella for 18 years now, and I'm in charge of the inclusive department at Acapella. So inclusive means using voices, licensing voices for 4 sub areas. The first one is assistive technology, so-called AAC for augmentative and alternative communication devices, so basically for speech impairment. The second one is for blindness and low vision impairment. The third one is related to education and technology, edutech, and the last one, last but not least, silver economy for elderly people. So that's where we use the Acapella voices. And basically, I'm going to illustrate one of the area, the AAC one, with the usage of Acapella voices. Actually, the service is called My Own Voice on daily usage for user. So here the video.
D1 to C2. C1 to G5. Checkmate.
So that is an example, but then I will go over what is AI or the way it looks like AI at Acapella Group. So AI is nothing new. AI, the first time we heard about the term AI, it was 1956. So as Acapella have been around for more than 25 years now, we went through all those changes, in technology, the new disruption, new technology usages, and so on. So I'm going to play 2 samples here to illustrate from the back old times, 1985 with the format synthesis technology, and what we have today, the way it sounds different and much better. So the first one is 1985.
This is a multilingual demonstration of text-to-speech synthesis.
So very robotic, and then today it sounds more like this.
Congratulations! I'm so excited for you. I know you worked really hard on this project, and I'm happy it's been such a success.
So we've been through all those disruptions with the iPhone technology, the unit selection, 2005. That's still the one largely used on the market. It's offline. It's still better quality than the previous technology. Bit robotic. But for the last, at least for the last 10 years, we are going through an ongoing disruption with the usage of more what we call DNN or neural voices technology. From a marketing or communication side, we call it AI voices. But again, AI is nothing new. So it's just about the new models, the new capability from computers, on device, embedded, or through GPUs, server, cloud-based. But all those components makes the capability a bit more enhanced compared to before. But what we have to remember is voice AI, it's a constant fight. It's all about having the right data, training on those data, so that's really important. And just circling back to what Richard said earlier, data privacy matters a lot. So we're concerned about data privacy and the ethical way we use the data. That's really important. That is really important. So we need data, we need the processor to train the models, so whether CPUs, offline, GPUs, and other. And we need some arbitration supervision. If you don't have the last block supervision, you might face some hallucination like the one I'm going to play as an example here.
The actor's last attempt at shake.
Really funny, but not really useful for the purposes here. So that was an example when we started to basically benchmark test the new models in 2019, just before COVID, where we were interpreting the data, using some new models, the algorithm, processing the data, but the outcome was not supervised and not controlled. And when you don't do that, you have some possible hallucination. So that's something we need to make sure to control. But I will give some concrete example of the way in 2025 AI developments are driven at Acapela Group. So the tagline for the inclusive department, the one I'm in charge for, is diversity and customization. So basically 3 concrete examples where AI is used, or at least I will say AI from a marketing communication perspective, but from a technical side is using new models, new capability. The first one is what we call the neural voices, all the Acapela voices that can be used offline have been updated to the new AI format. The second one is the flagship product called My Own Voice, and I will explain a bit more about this one, giving an example of my voice. And the third one is the way we develop new languages or new voices. So point 1 about AI voices. So Acapela offers 35 languages and more than 200 voices, adult, child voices, voices for specific context. All those voices have been converted to the new AI format in 2024. And now we are also deploying the new AI second generation, so for better quality. If you go on the Acapela website, acapela-group.com, you can hear those AI voices. You can play samples, you can play with them, and you see the improvement in terms of quality. So that is a concrete example of the way we use AI or new models for enhancing the current portfolio. And giving an example, that's the way it sounds today.
Turn right onto Main Street. In 500 feet, turn left onto California Street and stop at the mobile gas station to refill fuel.
AI voice, an example. The same AI voice can be spoken with different style. Here, bossy.
Turn right onto Main Street. In 500 feet, turn left onto California Street and stop at the mobile gas station to refill fuel. If you go this route, you can bypass tolls and save 30 cents per gallon.
Or more commercial.
Turn right onto Main Street. In 500 feet, turn left onto California Street and stop at the mobile gas station to refill fuel.
You got it. Better quality and more capability. We can play with style, we can have some naturalness. So it's also part of what we call the large language models. That's something we're implementing at Acapela, and that will offer more capability. But the purpose is also to make sure we can keep with a strategy to offer all those voices offline. We want to be used offline for many reasons. Like I said, data privacy, but also ethical aspects. The second example, the way we use AI at Acapela is through the My Own Voice services, voice preservation services. So that's the services used mainly by people diagnosed with ALS, MND, basically people at risk to lose their voice because of a disease. So when we started the services 10 years ago, it was AI, but it was a completely different technology. So it was about 8 hours of recordings and the quality which was not so good.
How old are you? Can you understand me okay? I need an appointment with my dentist.
And now with the new version 5, it takes only 5 minutes to record your voice and you get something which is sounds really like you. Here for the example, this is my voice.
Good morning all. Welcome in Switzerland. I hope you enjoy the weather and have a great time at the annual DAISY meeting.
So that is the second example of the way we use AI at Acapella through the My Own Voice services. The third one is the way we approach the market. When we need to develop new voices, we do it in different way. We call it the Blue Ocean strategy. Developments or basically, and I will demonstrate with some new Polish child voices. They were developed out of the blue. In the past, when we developed languages or voices, the process was to go to the recording studio, to record for 2 weeks, to have a voice talent, to basically handle the contract aspect of things, and to run some engineering for about 3 months. Long process, costly. Now, with those new AI capability, we can do voices much faster. And for this case, for instance, the Polish one were developed out of the blue, not going to the recording studio, not using some proper Polish child or children, and basically with the turnaround faster than anything in the past. So we created those voices within 2 weeks, and that is the way it sounds today.
Wysiadaj, tu policja. Zaraz przyjedzie straż pożarna. Dookoła jest pełno samochodów.
Brum, brum. Mamusiu, o której idziemy do zoo? Nareszcie, już nie mogę się doczekać. Chcę zobaczyć słonie. I małpki.
Tatusiu, niech przestanie, on mi ciągle przeszkadza. Zostaw mnie w spokoju, nie dotykaj mojego urządzenia.
Hejka! Zagrajmy w chowanego. Szukam. O nie! Znalazłeś mnie. To było świetne. Zagrajmy jeszcze raz.
Three concrete examples of the way we use AI at Acapella. The first one to enhance the full portfolio of voices to the new AI voices format. The second one, the My Own Voice flagship product, Tech for Good, creating your own voice within 5 minutes. And then the third one is the way we develop new voices out of the blue. So thank you for listening. You can scan here my contact details on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me by email, nicolas.mazars@acapella-group.com, or you can reach out to me by phone number +33 686 556 564. Thank you for listening, and be in touch for the next step in terms of voice AI developments.
Thank you, Nicholas. And I'm sorry that the demoitis got to us and the technology didn't work in our favor. But again, those of you that have experts, you send along to the AI Special Working Group, which is a group that is open to DAISY members only. We can invite external speakers, and Nicholas will be able to give us a presentation without the same pressure of time and with the technology working, hopefully, much more reliably. Let's return now to the second presentation in this block of 3, and we will hear now from Yasmin, who is telling us about the work on evaluating Arabic voices, and we'll just hear from Yasmin now.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yasmin Youssef, and first I'd like to thank the DAISY board for this opportunity to participate. I'm sorry I couldn't join the meeting live, and I'm sharing this short video instead. In this presentation, I'll briefly talk about DAISY's work on evaluating Arabic text-to-speech voices. This activity is part of the project Digital Assistive Technology Implementation in Jordan's Education System. It's implemented by DAISY in collaboration with GIZ and CBM. The project aims to transform Jordan's education system by integrating digital assistive technology and accessibility tools, promoting an inclusive learning environment for all students, especially those with disabilities. The purpose of this evaluation is to assess the quality, intelligibility, and usability of Arabic synthetic voices across 9 different AI and non-AI services. We're looking at how suitable these voices are for both general reading and educational use. The result of this assessment will guide the selection of the best text-to-speech voices to be used in production of full-text, full-audio textbooks. Before we move to the TTS evaluation, here's some background on Arabic text-to-speech. Arabic is a complex language with rich morphology. Words change form based on grammar, gender, and context, which makes pronunciation prediction difficult. Also, written Arabic often omits short vowels or diacritics, so a TTS system must guess pronunciation from context, which can lead to errors. There are wide regional differences between modern standard Arabic and local dialects, and choosing the right variety affects naturalness and comprehension. However, recent progress with AI and deep learning has improved Arabic TTS significantly, resulting in smoother intonation and more natural-sounding voices. Yet there are still remaining issues such as intonation accuracy, contextual pronunciation, which lag behind languages like English. For this evaluation, we focused on two main aspects: functional assessment and user experience. The functional assessment looks at how well the voices perform basic tasks. So we examined clear speech, how easy it is to understand each word, whether the voice can read at different speeds without losing clarity, correct pronunciation of numbers and special characters, consistency and reliability, maintaining quality throughout long text, correct pronunciation of diacritic marks, whether the voice handles modern standard Arabic and other varieties correctly, while the user experience focuses on how listeners perceive the voices. So we considered emotional customization, ability to convey tone or emotion, overall impression, comprehension and pronunciation in terms of ease of understanding and correctness of words, how human-like and pleasant the voice sounds, whether the voice works well for textbooks and learning content. Together, these criteria help us identify the voices that are both technically accurate and enjoyable for learners, ensuring high-quality TTS for full-text, full-audio DAISY textbooks. And now we will demonstrate some findings from this evaluation. Due to time constraints, we'll focus on some of the criteria. First, correct reading without diacritic marks. In this category, Google scored the highest, followed by 11 Labs in second place, and then Amazon Al-Lahjati in third. These results show which voices are most accurate at reading text where short vowels are not marked, an important factor for understanding Arabic text correctly. Here's a sample from Google.
إنك إذا أعطيت فإنما تعطي القليل من ثروتك، ولكن لا قيمة لما تعطيه ما لم يكن جزءا من ذاتك، لأن أي شيء هي ثروتك. أليست مادة فانية تخزنها في خزائنك وتحافظ عليها جهدك خوفا من أن تحتاج إليها غدا؟
Next, we look at the ability of voices to read numbers in context and symbols correctly. In this category, Google and Acapella scored the highest, followed by Amazon. While Google was the most accurate overall, it could not differentiate between months of the Hijri calendar and the Gregorian calendar, which is an important nuance for educational content. These results highlight both the strengths and limitations of the top-performing voices in handling numerical and symbolic information.
على الصعيد السكاني، يتوقع أن يتجاوز عدد سكان العالم عتبة 8 مليارات نسمة بحلول العام 2023، بعدما كان يقدر ب 6 مليارات و120 مليون. أظهر مسح أن نسبة ثلثين المشاركين يعتمدون على التمويل الذاتي لمشاريعهم الصغيرة، بينما اعتمدت النسبة المتبقية وهي 1/5 على القروض البنكية. وأخيراً، تم تسجيل درجة حرارة قصوى بلغت 48.9 درجة مئوية في الصحراء الكبرى، بينما سجلت درجة حرارة متجمدة بلغت -15 درجة مئوية في القطب الشمالي. كثافة الماء 1.0 جرام/سنتيمتر تكعيب.
Next, we evaluated dialect accuracy, testing how well voices could read aloud in Jordanian dialect. Overall, none of the voices performed perfectly, but Google stood out by producing a clear output with a hint of the dialect. In contrast, Amazon tended to sound more like a Gulf accent. It's worth highlighting that we didn't explicitly prompt these voices to imitate the dialect. They picked it up naturally from the context. Here's another example.
يا ترى هل السمنة معدية؟ يعني هل ممكن يزيد وزني عشان صديقي زاد وزنه؟ أو هل ممكن بنت يزيد وزنها عشان أختها بالبيت زاد وزنها؟ بيوم تساءل نيكولاس كريتاكيس من كلية الطب في هارفارد وجنيس فاولر من جامعة كاليفورنيا إنه هل زيادة الوزن إشي ممكن ينتقل من شخص لآخر مثل الأمراض الوبائية.
And now, we focus on naturalness of speech, how human-like and pleasant the voices sound. Here, we have two examples, one from 11 Labs and one from Hume, where the difference in naturalness is very obvious. Listening to these examples shows how some voices sound more expressive and fluid, while others may feel mechanical or flat, which can impact listener engagement and comprehension, especially for educational material.
ثم قال له رجل غني: هاتي حدثنا عن العطاء. فأجاب قائلا: إنك إذا أعطيت فإنما تعطي القليل من ثروتك، ولكن لا قيمة لماله ما لم يكن جزءا من ذاتك.
إنك إذا أعطيت فإنما تعطي قليل من ثروتك، ولكن لا قيمة لما تعطي ما لم يكن جزء من ذاتك.
Here are the overall user experience results from our survey so far. Google leads, followed by 11 Labs and Acapella. It's worth noting that Acapella scored relatively high, partly because of its popularity. Many users are already familiar with it, which may influence their preference. These results are still preliminary, and we need more survey participants to verify and validate the findings. This gives an early indication of which voices are preferred by listeners in terms of clarity, naturalness, and overall usability. And to conclude, the quality of Arabic TTS voices varies significantly across different providers. Google is the most functional and reliable overall, while OpenAI and Hume need improvement in clarity and dialect accuracy. Acapella is widely used among Arabic speakers, but requires better pronunciation and handling of dialect variations. For educational purposes, we prefer voices with high clarity, consistency, and correct pronunciation, even when diacritics are missing. The next steps include gathering more user feedback to validate our findings, preparing a comprehensive report summarizing the key results and recommendations.
Very nice. Well, we heard from Acapella about the new voices that are coming, and we heard from Yasmin about the project, which is looking to evaluate the different voices available for Arabic speech. Many DAISY members are now looking to understand this new landscape, this fast-changing landscape. And we'll hear next from Davy Krager at Dedicon on the work they've been doing to evaluate the possibilities for Dutch and English languages.
Welcome to all the board members and other attendees to this short presentation about text-to-speech at Dedicon. So we have two research projects going, and they are about, first of all, more hybrid magazines. So the full audio version where we use part TTS, part human, and also to see if text-to-speech can be used for educational digital talking books, where again, we would probably do only part of the book, or we would start out with text-to-speech and do human narration, which takes longer and supplements the book as it evolves. And we want to know what modern AI-based text-to-speech can bring us, and which vendors are out there, and which ones will fit the bill for us in terms of things like pronunciation, but also multilingual support, because we do a lot of Dutch, but also a lot of English, especially higher education books. Hallucination is a problem with AI, so we want to make sure that is not a problem and it has to be fit for purpose. I think we will touch on that a little bit in the samples. What options do we have? We tested quite a few options, and they are not all listed here, but some of them are listed here on the slide.
Amazon, Seriproc, Google, 11 Labs, Linkfinex, Listener, Lovol, Microsoft, OpenAI, ReadSpeaker, Synthesis, and Typecast.
So Out of those options, we found that 30 vendors is quite a lot, but a lot of them are also white labels of different other vendors. So Azure from Microsoft is used by other vendors, and they sometimes change the voice name, but it appears to be the same thing. Some have diffuse functionality, so they are into audio description or video generation or a whole lot of AI tools, and that is not what we are looking for. And therefore, we now have a short list of 3, and they are 11 Labs, Google, and Microsoft. So here we are doing step 2. How do they perform? We have a lot of criteria, including the intonation, the dynamics, so the volume or lack thereof, but also the way the volume might move up and down during a sentence, the rhythm and the timing, so where is a pause in the sentence or between sentences, or does it respect paragraph breaks? How does the voice perform in that regard? Is it very much the same sort of cadence over and over again, or does it vary? Empathy, or maybe storytelling, so for magazines especially, can it involve the listener and sound involved itself? How does it deal with abbreviations? We can pre-process those, but still you would like your computer voice to do as much of the heavy lifting as possible. And then language switching, so that we discussed already, Dutch text with English text interspersed, or English names, or a bibliography would be the extreme example. How well does that go? Also in magazines, you find a lot of maybe French phrases in there, depending on the article. I find that fashion and beauty has a lot of difficult words in it, for example. So Richard also pointed me towards the RNIB protocol, and while I have read it and found it extremely interesting, great work from the RNIB, I have not integrated that into our research just yet. So I'm now going to switch to showing some examples in audio only. So no visuals there from the 3 vendors that we had on our short list. And there will be some in Dutch, so apologies for that. One of them is, of course, 11 Labs. So let's start with that, with an English text. And I will do a little sample of 11 Labs version 2, the model version 2.
11. We are moral creatures, and so we must divide humanity into innocent and guilty victim and evil predator.
I hear a few pauses in the speech where I don't want them in the middle of a sentence. This is also a Dutch voice, and he can speak English, and it sounds convincing to me. It seems a little British. Notice that in between this presentation, I am also switching from one to the other because it's not my native language. This person here, it seems that he has a grip on the language.
But there is something about such distinctions that cuts us off from further knowledge.
Oh, now we did the same text with version 3, and I want to showcase the difference there.
11. We are moral creatures, and so we must divide humanity into innocent and guilty, victim and evil predator. But there is something about such distinctions that cuts us off from further knowledge.
And I hear a different voice, but also it is now more of a Dutch accented English speaker. So that is interesting. Now in Dutch, you can hear the difference between the 2 voices more. This is the same voice supposedly, but model version 2 versus model version 3. So here again is model version 2.
Maastricht. Romantische stad met een Bourgondisch hart, met beeldbeschrijvingen. Deze reisreportage neemt je mee door Maastricht.
Right now, notice how different the voice will sound in version 3, even though it's supposedly the same.
Maastricht. Romantische stad met een Bourgondisch hart, met beeldbeschrijvingen. Deze reisreportage neemt je mee door Maastricht, een stad met rijke historie, maar ook moderne elementen.
And also notice the letter R is pronounced really differently. We found it not to be quite suitable. However, for educational material, this actually scored really high for us because 11 Labs really knows how to deal with more complex content. So quick demo of Google. I'm going to stick to just English because, again, the same thing. Google has one voice that can do multiple languages, and you can kindly ask it to do either one or the other. And so here is a text using UK English as the request to Google.
11. We are moral creatures, and so we must divide humanity into innocent and guilty, victim and evil predator. But there is something about such distinctions that cuts us off from further knowledge.
That sounds pretty good. And then the exact same text, but now I ask Google to use a Dutch model.
11. We are moral creatures, and so we must divide humanity into innocent and guilty, victim and evil predator. But there is something about such distinctions that cuts us off from further knowledge.
So it says the Dutch word for 11, and it also has a very different accent. Of course, Dutch text, it is the opposite. It does better when you ask for Dutch versus English. So that is interesting to note. The exact same thing can also be done for Microsoft. However, Microsoft only offers a US voice that I'm going to show you. And there is no way to say, I want this voice, but I want it to be super Dutch.
11. We are moral creatures, and so we must divide humanity into innocent and guilty, victim and evil predator. But there is something about such distinctions that cuts us off from further knowledge.
I could have this voice speak Dutch and it works. However, it is not a native Dutch model at all, where 11 Labs actually has Dutch voices. So we do have a Dutch voice from Microsoft, but sadly, it is not the best at English.
11. We are moral creatures, and so we must divide humanity into innocent and guilty, victim and evil predator. But there is something about such distinctions that cuts us off from further knowledge.
So, long story, much shorter. There are pros and cons to different things, and I think that if we have a lot of post-processing on the audio to clean it up and a lot of pre-processing to get better sound from the TTS in the first place, by indicating language, for example, and by dealing with abbreviations, then there is a lot that we can do. And the big question, of course, is how much should we do and when does it become too much? Because then you might as well just read it using a human voice. So to round up, these are the challenges and questions that I also showed the AI group earlier in the year, and I've revised them a little bit. But basically, they still stand. I'm curious to know how your users respond in different countries to a TTS voice. What production system do you use? Is it the pipeline or is it something else? And how do you deal with re-implementing a conversion system or a production system every time a new best option comes along? Because we do not want to keep recreating conversion tools. And then one that I added and discussed briefly with Richard is the question, how about could we perhaps systematically test the top vendors that we have so that each month we have the same text in different languages with different models? Basically what I was showing you right now, except structured, automated, and hosted by Daisy. That is something I would find very interesting. But for now, thank you. Back to Richard.
Thank you, Davey. It's all good. It's all under control. I've just turned the volume up to hear him, but I need to turn it down again when we make the microphone live in the room. So text-to-speech, we've heard 3 sessions on text-to-speech, maybe 2.5. It's one of the areas that the AI Special Interest Group wanted to dig into earlier. I think it will continue to be a theme. We'll have those discussions, including the questions that Davey posed at the end of the session there in the future meetings. So again, if you have experts who are engaging in these areas, make sure that they're signed up to that group and come along to exchange, to learn at the monthly meetings. So next then, we'll turn to AI conversions from scanned and PDF content, another area of focus. So if David's online, we're just letting you know that we're not seeing the shared screen right now. Arne, you have a question or you were pointing to the screen?
Question. Can I ask a question?
Sure, let's
Yeah.
be quick. And you're speaking very shortly too. So
Yeah. So license models, costs, pricing. Is that the topic also in the consideration?
your microphone is live. Yeah, it was one of the things that turned up in the survey, and it's one of the things we've been exploring in the group. So could we do maybe a group buying deal or a discount deal, or get some sort of arrangement there? Also, we were comparing the costs of generating content between the different models. So one might be slightly better, but much more expensive, for example. So yeah, it's all to play for in that group. Thank you, Arnie, for the question. So now we're moving into AI being used for converting from scanned or PDF content. This turns up in our general surveys of member concerns as well, not only on AI. And we're here, first of all, from Michael Johnson from Benetech, who's joining us from the States. Michael, are you with us?
Yes, hello all. This is a short video from Sarah Harris, who's the project manager for Benetech's Page AI project, as well as our mobile Bookshare reader. And she's going to cover very briefly the progress we're making on taking scanned documents, even documents with pictures taken on a phone, and turning them into much more accessible content. So off you go, Richard.
We will explore two documents that I have uploaded. One, and first let's just explore the document that was uploaded. One is simplifying rational exponents. It is a worksheet with, obviously, as the name suggests, exponents and some fractions as well. And the other worksheet is called factoring. It's a factoring worksheet. Again, has different variables and exponents here, and just different equations to solve. So let's get to it. I'm going to open up Bookshare Reader, the mobile app. When I first opened up the app, I'm on the upload screen, and there was still a spinning in progress wheel. That's because the files were still being converted. And now both files are present and ready to download so that I can read them offline. So I'll go ahead and do that and download both of those files. And that shouldn't take too much time. Yep, they're ready to go. So now I'm going to open it up in the reader, and we're going to check out I've kind of set my settings here to a large font and spacing. There we go. We're going to check out the math reading experience both in in-app TTS, and then as well as I'll turn on VoiceOver in the system screen reader, and we can explore it that way as well. So let's first do in-app TTS.
Factor each completely. List item 1 of 8, 3p squared, minus 2p minus 5. List item 2 of 8, 2n squared, plus 3n minus 9. List item...
Okay, so as you can hopefully hear, the math was able to be read, it was read correctly and seamlessly. Let's go to the other worksheet real quick and check it out.
Simplifying rational exponents. Simplify. List item 1 of 8. Open paren n to the 4th power. Close paren raised to the 3/2 power. List item 2 of 8. Open paren. 27p to the 6th power. Close paren raised to the 5/3 power. List item 3 of 8. Open paren. 25b to the 6th power. Close paren raised to the negative 1.5.
So you can hopefully hear that as well. Let's check out VoiceOver.
VoiceOver on. Bookshare. Back button.
Okay.
Search setting. Cubus. Simply 1. List start. Enter the 4. Superscript fraction start. 3/2. End of fraction. Math. 1 of 8. 2. 27p to the 6. Superscript fraction start. 5/3. End of fraction. Math. 2 of 8.
And then let's explore it more
Double
deeply.
tap to view done button.
So you can double tap to explore the math more deeply through this voiceover.
27p to the 6, math. Fraction start. 5/3, end of fraction, math. Fraction start. Done, button.
That's that one.
Back, simplify. 25b to the done, but 25b to the 6, math, minus 1.5, math. Minus 1 point done,
you can
done,
basically
button.
explore it
Back, button.
more deeply.
Voiceover off.
And that is the end of the demo. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that's just a quick taste of what we've been up to inside the Bookshare mobile reader. And these were examples coming from worksheets that had been handed out in schools. We're very proud of the math and science accessibility in this, and Richard could speak to more about how the testing went on our MathML work.
Thank you, Michael, for that. That's perfect. Great to see these AI tools no longer being theoretical and actually showing up in the tools that users are using. Hopefully my screen will get back to sharing in a second, and we'll move to the next item in this theme of converting from scanned and PDF content. And the next topic, Arnie, you're going to tell us about the Nordic Group's PDF conversion analysis project.
So it's more a plan. It's not what we've done. So the Nordic libraries are collaborating on a lot of areas. One of the areas is to outsource the conversion from PDF EPUBs to what we call the Nordic EPUB. One of the mandate we have got from our directors is to get more independent of the external converting companies. We are now establishing the group. We are now starting we have tested different tools. This is a kind of two-way thing. One thing is to ensure that we have the necessary contract with the external companies. So we have to look at the contract, see if we are starting to do things differently. We need other contracts, we need other things they do, so that is one of the things. The other thing is to see how we can start to use tools to replace the external companies. So we hopefully during next year we will have solutions. We are looking at. We have been testing a Norwegian company. We have looked at Richard's tools, etc. So basically, it's to get more independent and see if we can do more, or at least as a first step, the more simple content automatically converted in-house.
Thank you. It'll be great to hear the results of those evaluations you do. I know that the results seem to be broadly applicable. And as you say, there are other efforts to evaluate PDFs here at WIPO as well. So I think there's lots of cross-learning that can happen.
Jonas?
So thank you for sharing news about that project. If Jonas was going to add anything to this?
I just ask if Jonas has something to add.
It's both being more independent. It's also about quicker time to market. Because at the moment we need to send something to a supplier and it needs to get back, and it can take a couple of weeks to get something done. And if we can go from a couple of weeks to a couple of hours, especially for course literature or something that can be quite time sensitive to get to the users, that will be a better service.
Super, and we'll discuss that more again in the AI Special Interests Group. So the next topic in this theme, the third item on converting from scanned and PDF, is to tell a little bit about a project that will be presented at the next AI Special Interest Group, and indeed was discussed previously. So it's the PDF Conversion Quality Framework. So Arnie just referred to the tools there. So at DAISY, we have a tool that is used for prototyping and experimenting with different AI models and workflows. You won't find this tool on the DAISY website. It's for members only. It's restricted access. And it's one of the things that we discuss in the special interest group. And currently, the tool allows us to experiment with PDF conversion, with image descriptions, with generating metadata, and with text-to-speech. In this session, we're talking about the PDF conversion piece. And of course, there are many PDF conversion options that are out there and have been used in previous years, continue to be used. Abby Fine Reader using an OCR model, Adobe Acrobat using the tool that is sometimes used to create PDFs, can also export PDFs in other formats. Some folk use Google Drive to upload a document and then use the capabilities within Google Drive to turn that into a structured document. And Microsoft Word, even in the last couple of years, has improved its ability to cope with PDF as an import format. But kind of new on the block are some of these AI tools that we're excited to experiment with, and in some cases use in anger, as it were. So I list the tools on this slide. Docling is one that's produced by IBM, Doctly, Gemini from Google, Marker, that's a tool that is also available as an open source model that you can run locally. MathPix has a big focus on math and STEM content, so dealing with equations, complex tables, complex images. Mistral, an innovation out of a European AI group, specifically focused on OCRing and processing PDFs and turning them into structured documents. And then there's a well-known non-AI library called MooPDF. It's one of the PDF libraries. And in a sense, that's kind of a nice baseline to use to see to what extent do these other models kind of bring us more things. That group that I just mentioned, they're all supported within the experimentation tool that we call Fido. So right now it's possible to take PDFs, image PDFs or regular PDFs, and try out the conversions using any of these models and compare the results to them. And there are new models coming along all the time, or that could be implemented. So there's one called LlamaPass. There's DeepSeek OCR that came out maybe a couple of weeks ago from the Chinese AI giant, I think now. Nougat was from Facebook. That's focused particularly on scientific and academic papers. And Azure Document Intelligence from Microsoft. All of these models are evolving, improving, changing all the time. And so as people play around with these different things, they ask questions like, which are the models that most accurately extract the text from, say, scanned documents? Which ones can extract text that are in non-Latin scripts? How effectively are they at removing extraneous text like the watermarks or page numbers, running headers and footers? Can they do things like figure out the logical reading area? Can they reliably impose the heading structure by detecting the different size of headings? Because we need that, of course, for good navigation, for Braille production, these things. What are they like at marking up things like text boxes, extracting images, handling complex tables? How accurate is the conversion of math expressions? These and many more questions. Well, there are public leaderboards out there that do the analysis of these different models. I've put a slide up with a whole load of those different ones, but when we look at those, none of them really answer the questions that DAISY members and content converters are looking for. They're really more focused on processing invoices or providing content for AI consumption and these sorts of things, not really for, I guess, the production of accessible formats. But we can maybe borrow some of the approaches they use, some of the techniques they use as well. So within the AI special interest group, we then used the hive mind of the experts there, and we developed 25 parameters that could be used to look at the quality of an AI conversion. Things like the text accuracy, the document structure, the content semantics, so being able to know that things are links and things are lists and those sorts of things, language markup. A big focus on images, on tables, on math, and even on generating or extracting metadata. So this is up as a Google Doc. I think it'll continue to evolve, but it's in a good place. Now we've had a few iterations of looking at that. And again, the Google Doc is linked from the thing. So, but having a framework, you need a way of being able to test it. You need some tests that are kind of transparent, but also repeatable, so that when you run the test again on the same PDF conversion a second time, you're going to get predictable results, and that the comparisons between different conversions are kind of fair. And as I say, these things are changing all the time, so we would want this kind of testing approach to be extensible, so that you would be able to test with different documents. So maybe test with the documents that you use in your organizations or in your scripts or with your types of content. So it would be nice if we got that level of flexibility to be able to test, of course, with new conversion solutions that come along. And maybe as the framework changes, to be able to improve and add more tests. So, and also with 25 tests and a long list of different conversions, we need a way of being able to do this in an automated way, because otherwise it will just be a very long day. So again, we'll be bringing this kind of tool to the AI Special Interest Group at the beginning of December. It's currently in validation, and right now we've got some 10 tests that are supported within a tool that enables us to test against conversions. So we're testing about parameters against parameters such as extracting text from scanned documents or searchable PDFs, looking at the heading structure, identifying the links, lists, whether they're able to extract alt text, for example, these sorts of things. And this is an automated tool that's now generating some 90 different metrics against the different tools that are there, and presenting them in something that George referred to yesterday as a leaderboard, and there seemed to be some interest. Jonas referred to this as well. Something to be able to go to and see what are the different tools out there and how are they scoring against these different parameters. If I'm particularly interested in math, I want to know which ones are doing well on that. I may not be interested in images, or I might be very interested in images, which ones are doing well on the image extraction and so on. So that tool is now actually also built into that FIDO experimentation tool, and we look forward to the further conversations within the group to get that into a place where the results that it's producing are trustworthy, validated, and can be repeated again and again, as I say, as the models evolve and as new conversion techniques come along. So responding to the requests that are coming from the members there. Okay, so now we have the possibility to move to the next item of describing images. We are scheduled to have a break in about 15 minutes or so. So let's see how we do with this. We're going to hear, well, first of all, let's see a little short demo running on the screen. It's a silent demo. It's just to mention that one of the things that turned up in the survey, has been discussed within the group, are concerns about data privacy, about rights holders concerns and these sorts of things. So we always said that we'd be interested to explore local AI. So whilst the FIDO tool currently supports some 60 different AI models that are hosted online, so they're accessed using kind of cloud-based services that we can look at for doing image descriptions. Basile will tell us a little bit about the work there on evaluating those. The next version will support local AI models. For this, you need hardware. And just before I came here for Geneva, I was interested to see what it was like to describe images in an ebook, in an EPUB, using my son's regular machine, but it's a gaming machine. So it's got a like a graphics card in there that's a lot better than I have in my laptop. Usually to describe the, George, how many images are in this? 317 images in a book. Usually it takes, I think, about 13, 14 minutes. So great to go through and give really good descriptions of the variety of images that are in that book. Those of you that participate in the special interest group, there's an article that describes all the process that went into producing this book and so on. It takes about 13, 14 minutes or so. On my son's machine using a local model, and it's now running a video of describing the images. It takes about 4.5 minutes, actually. So really fast if you have a half decent graphics card. So local AI processing is a very realistic thing, and the quality of the image descriptions is great. These local models, these open source models are really, many of them are as good, some even better than the commercial ones. So it's better than the online commercial models too, absolutely, yeah. So this is flying through these images. It's flashing up images of cakes and breads and things, and also other elements that are in the book. So there are graphics with timelines in and instructions and so on. So this is not only describing the images, it's classifying them beforehand using the AI and then applying a specific prompt for that type of image. So that's just to kind of note that local AI processing, those of you that have concerns about maybe cost, data privacy, rights holder issues, and so on, this is absolutely a possibility, and also for converting from PDF materials and even local voices, as we heard from Nicholas from Acapella too. But next, and just before the break, we'll hear from Basile about the work that was done at AVH. Basile, over to you.
Hello everyone. So we were asked to test Fido, so I asked my team to do it. So they did two things. They made some kind of guideline of Fido. So we made it in French and we translated it. So it's gonna be available. So if you guys want to check it and see how to use it, there is a guideline. And then we made some testing on single image description, on describing images in EPUB, on a Word document. We have a spreadsheet with all the analysis. So I'm not gonna, of course, going through all the spreadsheet, but what I'm gonna do is just tell you the results and on the differences on each different kind of test. So about single image description, they tested it with an image showing a vintage Volkswagen car. So the results show differences in the level of detail. So they used Gemini 2.5 Pro and Flash models, Gemini 1.5 Pro and GPT-4o Mini. So they produced accurate, coherent and well-written description. The description from the other models, namely Grok 4, Llama 4 Scout, Mistral Small 3.2, Gemini 2.5 Pro, GPT-5 and GPT 4.1. They were still accurate, but tended to be more generic and less detailed. So what they noted is that in the duplicate test, the same model can generate different description for the same image. So the two descriptions that I'm going to tell you about were generated by Gemini 2.5 Flash and for the same image. So the first description was a classic blue Volkswagen Beetle with a sunroof on cream-colored wheels. Is parked on pavement next to a pebble beach with the ocean visible in the background. And the second description was a vintage blue Volkswagen Beetle with a sunroof is parked on a paved surface next to a pebbly beach on the ocean. So it's quite similar, but not exactly the same. About describing images in an EPUB, so we had differences also, and they stayed on the same models actually. So what they described was multiple images. So we use images without any rights, copyright issues. So it's mostly images with no colors in it. So you have all the images in a spreadsheet. So they said that Gemini 2.5 Pro took 2 minutes and 33 seconds to generate all description and encountered an error during image description. Gemini 1.5 Pro took 2 minutes and 4 seconds to generate all descriptions. GPT-5 took 39 seconds to generate all description, and GPT 4.1 took 43 seconds to generate all description. So they noted that they encountered a processing error on image in EPUB 5, the number 2, so you will see in the spreadsheet. So sometimes there are unexpected response format because they can't really understand what the images is or even the format is. So be sure to have images with proper format that it can be read. And the images in a Word document, they are showing differences between the model again. Gemini 2.5 Pro model produced many very clear and precise description, but occasionally encountered error during the generation. Description provided by the other model, Gemini 1.5 Pro, GPT-5, GPT 4.1, were clear and precise. And about the results, Gemini 2.5 Pro took 17 minutes to generate all the images description, when Gemini 1.5 Pro took only 8 minutes. So it's interesting to see that the next level took more time. Yeah, and for Gemini 2.5 Pro, it took nearly 10 minutes. And by contrast, OpenAI model took only 3 minutes to generate each description for the same number of images. So you have all this information in the spreadsheet and in the document. So I suggest to you to see it, and we will do more testing with other AI model soon.
Basile, thank you for that. So just to make sure it's really clear, so in the shared folder that is linked from the agenda, Basile has placed the 2 documents. There's a spreadsheet with all the kind of detail and a Word document that describes the findings more generally. So we have one more session in this AI group. We will actually do this one after our break. So we're doing great on the time, but we have plenty more to do after the refreshment break. So we'll make sure we get Rafael online from Brazil for this. So Martin, maybe you will speak and say how we will handle the break and the timing of that.
I think in the break that coffee has been served. I don't know if this is already there because we are a little bit earlier. Not yet.
Let's see whether there are any questions or anything from folk, or any observations, any additional contributions from folk based on this blizzard of sessions that have been held here. I see one hand going up. So, Arnie?
I can't see that document from Basile in the folder. Will it come or?
Thank you for pointing that out. I'll check. Maybe it's a sync issue, but yeah. A syncing issue. Yeah. Do you see it, Basile, in the folder? Okay. It is there. Yeah. So it's coming to you, Arnie. It's working its way down the table to you. You just sat in the wrong place. Okay. All right. And this folder is accessible to observers, also linked from your agenda. Do we have any other comments or
Basile, did you say that the same AI engine would give different descriptions when you redid it?
Yeah, actually, the Nicolas and Jan on my team, when they did the testing, they found out that with the same model, you can have different description of the images. If you ask several times, it's never gonna give the same description of the images. It's true.
Richard?
The big book of bread that we were talking about, 317 images, the ones that I got in that EPUB were just fabulous descriptions. And now I'm wondering what would happen if it's run again. Would they be not so good? I don't understand, I guess.
So I think, George, what you should get are fabulous descriptions, but just they may be worded slightly differently. So this is the thing with generative AI. When I talked about the PDF conversion analysis work against that quality framework, our first attempt was using AI, but it's not predictable, it's non-deterministic. And so sometimes you want to be able to use the creative juices of an AI, I think, for image description. And for some things, you need the predictable kind of results. So I think it's horses for courses. So let's try it again. If you can wait for 4.5 minutes, if I do it on my son's machine, or 14 minutes if we do it from the hotel, you can have a different version of descriptions of those books. We have David.
Yes, does it ever hallucinate descriptions and describe stuff that isn't there? Or, this stuff has to be reliable for us to use it.
Yep. In the article that describes the process, a really critical bit is review of the images. So sometimes you will have it go. So we haven't seen it kind of go off and just start making stuff up, but you could see that, for example, in educational content, you would certainly want to screen for inappropriate words, very misleading content, and so on. Actually, AI can help with some of these things as a kind of another filter to look. So you use a second AI to check the output of the first AI. But yeah, critically, a review of the descriptions that have been produced. I noticed, Basil, in the spreadsheet that was done, some of the AI requests failed. And so someone needs to go through and say, oh, look, the engine was too busy at this point. So that can be improved with coding, but that's another example that you can't just get the motor running and leave it going. Yesterday, the board talked about principles on image descriptions, and there was something in there about human review, human in the loop of this kind of content, because you've got to take responsibility for that. If you're a publisher that's using AI or a special library, you're not just handing over control to the AI, you're using it as any other tool, and you pay attention to that. And I'll just add another thing. So we heard again in one of the earlier AI special interest group, some folk were using AI voices and they loved it, but sometimes in the middle of text, the AI would go off script and start saying things that are not included in the book. This is improving with the later models, but again, what are you going to do? You're going to have to go back and check that what just got read is actually in the book. So these are all the things that we're learning about, discovering, exchanging things on. I think kind of two words that really strike me are urgency on AI, because it's changing fast and we need to take up the opportunities, but also caution. So those two things almost contradictory in our heads that we need to be thinking about. Basil?
And just to add, the more the image is in high definition, the more the accurate description we'll have. So if you give an image which is very blurry or you can't see many things on the images, it will be better and better, of course. But now we have better results with very high quality images.
Richard, with the AI generation of using text-to-speech, I'm still unclear about this. So we've got the Azure Voices in the DAISY pipeline for generating an audiobook. Does that hallucinate?
No.
So that is a text-to-speech engine that does not hallucinate. But when you ask this AI to speak it, it's not using a TTS engine like the Azure is. It's using its own models to pretend to be a narrator reading the book. And so one will hallucinate, the pretending to be a narrator will hallucinate, but the TTS engine that is AI generated is dependable. Is that the difference?
Yeah, I've never heard an occasion of the Azure Voices hallucinating. They seem to be much more deterministic. And I've only heard of, for example, 11 Labs hallucinating. And I think it's sometimes referred to as temperature or something. So did you want to speak to this, Avnish?
So there is, in the AI engines, there's a temperature setting when you reduce it, it becomes more and more deterministic. When you need to do something creative, you have to increase it, and then it starts doing some imaginations and all those things. This is one of the reasons. Another reason is that the AI voices coming from the big players, they are also tested thoroughly. While the startup companies, they cannot put so much of resources in verifying and doing all the things. And the basic concept that I mentioned, more straightforward the things are, lower is the temperature, better is the more deterministic is the output. As you go high and as you allow AI to do its own interpretation, adding emotions and all those things, the hallucination chances goes up. Thank you.
But now I don't understand again.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Because this is a very interesting discussion, and maybe we have some time later in the day to continue this discussion, but it's now the time for the break. So we have a break now, and we will see you back at 11. Thank you. So welcome back in this part of the meeting after the break that we had. We continue with the AI topic, and our next presentation will be done by Raphael from Dorina Noel, who will talk more about AI for Braille production. Raphael, the floor is yours.
Hello, good morning.
Now we see the screen.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little about our journey using AI, and focusing more on solutions related to image description. And at the end, I will show a video connecting all our solutions. Remember that Dorina Noel Foundation focused on working with school and university textbooks. And here on the slide, we have an image of a book that shows a map of Brazil and climate elements. And I will describe it later when we talk about the solution. So describing images for daily use is very different from describing educational ones. Many tools exist for end users, but few for those who create accessible materials. Our focus, the intermediaries, we call it here, the professionals who write descriptions that will later reach blind and low vision readers. The generic models, they are vague, inconstant, and require extensive technical adjustments. They do not provide adequate information for solving. So the exercise here, this slide is the same image that the first slide, but I bring some context, and in this case, the student need to answer some questions, and after the image, and exactly that is the challenge when you need to put the context in the image description. So a brief introduction to some of the problems we face in this type of image description. And here especially the question is, in which regions is sunny weather expected? And here I bring some content about the, I get the Be My Eyes, but other solutions is the same. It's so generic, yeah. A picture, we like that. We like this phrase that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but only if those words are well chosen. In this case, I will read the Be My Eyes description. Color the map of Brazil showing the weather forecast for November 25, 2021. The map features icons of sun, clouds, rain, and thunderstorms across various regions of the country, indicating different weather conditions. In the lower left corner, there is a legend explaining the meaning of the symbols. Mostly sunny, part cloudy, chance of rain, cloudy with chance of rain, cloudy with chance of showers, and thunderstorms. Chance of showers and showers. This is a kind of the description, the generic description. And the our specialized solution, we bring, of course, the contest, the exercise, and now the student was all elements they will need later on to be able to thinking for themselves and answer the question. So for in our solutions, the description is map, classify the image, weather forecast for November 25, 2021. The map highlights Brazil with state divisions and indicates weather conditions. North, partly cloud in Boa Vista, Manaus, Macapá, and Belém. Cloudy with a chance of rain showers and thunderstorms in Rio Branco, Porto Velho, and Palmas. Northwest, partly cloud in São Luís. Mostly sunny in Fortaleza, Natal, João Pessoa, Recife, and Maceió. Cloudy with a chance of rain showers and thunderstorms in Palmas, Teresina, Aracaju, and Salvador. Center West, showers in Cuiabá and Campo Grande. Sunny in Brasília and Goiânia. Southwest, sunny in Belo Horizonte, Vitória, São Paulo, and Rio de Janeiro. In South, sunny in Curitiba. Showers in Florianópolis and Porto Alegre. In the lower right corner, a compass rose indicates north, west, south, and west, below a scale ranging from 0 to 1500 kilometers. So here, all the elements are presented in this description. Where we started, here I have an illustration, a notebook page being written on. On the right, hand holds a yellow pencil with a eraser on the top. Every description was written manually later. Quality varied, grammar issues, shallow content, long production time. These problems is when you think in scale, your production is terrible because you depend 100% for humans. The time is hard to get the goal. A process full of patience, but definitely not scalable. So our first step with AI, we tried early AI tools, descriptions were too generic, with little understanding, and for educational with little understanding for educational context. Basically, we tried and help us learn what not to do. Here I have a mosaic in this slide, a mosaic of 6 frames showing the logos of the main AIs: Copilot, GPT, Gemini, Perplexity, DeepSeek, and Claude. So the second step was based on what they had. How could we improve things? We developed long and specific prompts tailored to each image type, organized images by categories, maps, charts, photos, etc., and mark the starts of a more structured process for us. And these help us to improve our descriptions. And for that, we have the image here for hands putting together pieces of white jigsaw puzzle. We make study groups, brought together teachers, accessibility experts and tech team, and define the rules and needs for each image category, built the foundation for specialized training. And the third step was to get into a personalized fine-tuning service. We create a large data set for training and refining our models, split big categories in smaller, more focused one. And example, instead of maps, and we now train models separately for early and advanced school maps and adapting language and complexity. And this is all content in our fine tuning. Here I have another image of the world map, which again shows these problems. I won't stop here because the time, but you can analyze it calmly later. I will make the slide available for you. The first step is a one description with Copilot and another one with our model. This part, particularly that Alex likes the most, we're talking about the performance and costs with our solution providing. Basically, considering 30 books per month after the fine tuning. Yeah, after the fine tuning, we save basically 72% in computational costs. Monthly cost with the generic model, we have almost $20. With fine tuning, I spend $5.50. This equivalent to eliminating the waste of 35 full books of unnecessary text every month in our production. Here, a video showing the time lapse, the using of the Dorine AI image description platform. Let me play here. So Dorine AI today is smarter, faster, and of course the context aware, produce high quality, context sensitive description for educational materials, reduce production time and increases consistency. Constantly learn from expert feedback. You can see the experts can evaluate the description, and of course the AI learn with these reviewers. In the next step, after the image description stabilized, now we are now finalizing the solution that helps with quality control and reviewers. We make the Avalia. We have accelerated description generation, and now the challenge is human evaluation. Avalia is our new platform to support reviewers. It offers a focused space for revision and management, making the evaluation process more efficient and transparent. I have more information in a video using the Avalia especially. And here is in this slide, I have an image in the screenshot of Avalia platform. We are already testing the MVP for Avalia, and we'll soon have the solution ready for use. We are also considering commercializing the license, which includes the complete package, Dorine AI and Avalia, for organizations facing the same demands and scalability issues in production that we faced before. We will prioritize the easy partners If you are interested, please send an mail or talk with Alexander. And once we finalize the MVP tests, we can provide a more detailed presentation for you. And now the last one, we are working on LLMs, expanding our intelligence in our solutions. We introduced the Linear, our LLM-based system that understands visual and textual context for bring the clean information to our agents AI, and of course improve our final results. The model reads entire pages, not just a single image, capture the semantic relationship among all elements. Each page in PDF is converted in grayscale images, then processed by our LLM, which generates a structured JSON with classified and related content. We have tested this approach with real textbooks, and the results are very promising. We showing this solution for Richard. Here you can see the original page in the left one. The book is complex page for extraction information, and here and a regular solution to extract this information. The information is all messy. With our LLM extraction, you can see the JSON is structured content and classified content to the page too. It helps a lot to our agents to describe or analyze the context when we just need to describe some scheme like this example. And I will share the video with you, and here you can see, we can watch the all ecosystem for Dorina NanoWheel.
Dorina Knowle, Dorina Smart, Dorina Ecosystem, Dorina AI. Dorina Ecosystem, accessibility, reimagined. It all starts with a PDF. Publishing houses create books made for print. These books are beautiful, but hide many layers of chaos. They have many elements, images, and different fonts. When we extract the content, everything comes out messy. It takes a lot of people and a lot of time to fix a book and make it accessible. That's why we created the Braille platform, to make life easier for those who adapt books. Time-lapse video of a computer screen showing the use of the Braille ecosystem platform. It helped a lot, but there were still many challenges to solve. Then came Dorina IA. It automates the image description process, doing the heavy lifting and leaving only the review for humans. Time-lapse video of a computer screen showing the use of the Dorina IA platform. Once that was ready, we realized it could go even further. We created Avalia to validate and improve image descriptions, ensuring they are perfect before publication. Time-lapse video of a computer screen showing the use of the Avalia platform. All of this helped a lot, but we still had one big challenge. Each platform processed isolated content without understanding the context of the book. Linear uses LLMS to process entire book pages, removing publisher noise and understanding the semantic relationship between text and images. Time-lapse video of a computer screen showing the use of the linear solution. Now the Braille platform, Dorina IA, and Avalia will no longer receive raw content. They receive clean, structured, meaningful information. Dorina IA, Avalia, Braille platform, and Linear, a fully connected ecosystem.
So, is it? Thank you for space. We are available to discuss solutions. If you wish, you can send me an email. It's a pleasure to share our journey with you. And a bonus for all, we developed the Punção. This is a creative tool for drawing with letters. It lets users design shapes on Braille grid, transforming visual forms in tactile letter-based patterns. And you can access and use it freely in this link. This solution help a lot our teachers and parents of the children here to let me see the video, the demonstration. You can drawing and get the letters in printing and use it for teaching, for classes. It's a very good solution and helps a lot here for us. And we, pleasure share is freely for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Raphael, very much for many wonderful things that you've shown us in that presentation. In the interest of time, I think we need to guillotine this at this point. We're running slightly over on that. But if you are able, Raphael, to share the deck by email, maybe without the embedded videos, makes it a little easier. There are links in there that you referred to, and if we make sure that your email address is clearly in the deck, then people can reach out to you. And there's the link to the free tool that you're sharing in there too. Raphael, thank you very much for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, well, that concludes this section in this meeting on AI, or many things AI related. And we transition now into the member sharing section. So this is where we reached out to board members and the wider membership to see if there were things that they felt would be useful to either ask or to share with other DAISY members. And we begin this session with Pravina and with Dipendra, who will be talking to us about the Global Braille Literacy Campaign. Pravina, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, all members, observers, etc., and also to my co-presenter, Dipendra. So the purpose of this presentation, as Richard has just indicated, is to inform the DAISY board of the joint ICVI-WBU Global Braille Literacy Campaign, and also to further formally welcome the DAISY Consortium to join as a key collaborator in the campaign itself. On behalf of ICVI and WBU, I am going to share what the campaign is about in terms of an update where we are and also why we are doing this campaign. So the campaign is entitled More Braille, More Empowerment. And at this juncture, I must also say that I want to thank DAISY Consortium for its continuous collaboration, even in terms of various other initiatives, like our Visionary Learning Technology Initiative over the years, and also its keen interest that it has shown to actually join this key collaboration in terms of the Global Braille Literacy Campaign, because we clearly cannot do the campaign without these technical expertise that the various DAISY partner organizations have. Now, this is the first global Braille literacy campaign that focuses specifically on strengthening Braille. When we're looking at Braille in terms of learning, access to Braille materials, innovation in terms of digital Braille, and it goes far and wide into the various areas, which I will broadly discuss as we move along in the presentation. Now, just to briefly outline, we actually did a soft launch of the campaign in Sao Paulo in September at the World Blindness Summit this year, where there were more than 1,200 delegates from more than 100 countries. And at the summit, we met with various network partners, organizations, etc., including our Richard Orme from the DAISY Consortium. And we had various discussions on how we were going to prioritize the various areas in terms of how the Braille campaign was to proceed. What we found was that the responses at the soft launch of the campaign were very, very encouraging. And the consistent message that came across was that it is time for a coherent and well-coordinated global Braille initiative to come about to ensure that we revitalize and further proof Braille in terms of how we move forward in future. Now, the official launch of the campaign will take place on the 4th of January, 2026, on World Braille Day, which marks Louis Braille's 217th birthday. And it's clear that it's also been just over 200 years of Braille. Now, naturally, Braille has transformed lives of people with visual impairment, low vision, deaf blindness over the years. But what we also need to admit and what we realize is that there has now been a change in terms of the context of education, of information, in terms of how all of this is shared and in terms of accessibility. The world is now digital. Education systems are shifting to online platforms. We clearly have e-learning and digital assessments, including STEM tools that we have to deal with. Employers clearly now want things in real time. Digital communication is critical. And in order for Braille to remain relevant and powerful in this modern era, it's undeniable that we need to evolve with the times to suit these new environments. Now, what we found in terms of the campaign, when we identified the challenges that currently exist, and we must admit that it's very much in our low and middle income countries, is that millions of children still experience reduced exposure to Braille in early childhood and in primary schools. There is a lack of Braille access to textbooks, including STEM subjects and digital learning systems. And moreover, there's inequity in access to Braille technology and production systems, especially as I indicated in our developing context. So the campaign is not about protecting Braille from the digital world, but rather it is about placing Braille at the center of the digital world. To highlight then the focus areas, the key focus areas, we're looking at 3 key focus areas of the campaign. The first one is advocacy and media. This means that we're going to look at promoting messages about Braille as a fundamental literacy right through publications, through public messages that are locally led in our various regions in the world. The second one would be on information resources, where we are ensuring access to multilingual and also accessible Braille resources and building capacity among educators. We're looking at building capacity in education ministries, publishers, authorized entities on how we make Braille more accessible in this digital world as well. And then thirdly, we're looking at research and innovation, where we're generating regionally informed evidence-based insights on the availability, on the use, on the impact of Braille. We're also looking at the survey in terms of standardization of national Braille codes and adopting technology around e-Braille, etc. At this point, because we clearly want to do all of these things holistically for the education, for access, etc., for children with visual impairment, low vision, deaf blindness, visual impairment with additional disabilities, and we require the technical expertise of DAISY. I'm going to ask my co-presenter, Dipendra, to please come take the floor now to articulate how DAISY is going to be able to jointly assist as key collaborators in this global Braille literacy campaign. Over to you, Dipendra.
Thank you, Pravina, and such a pleasure to be amongst the DAISY family back, and especially in context of this Braille campaign. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, sorry. So our engagement with this Braille campaign actually started in June 2025 when DAISY Consortium actually hosted a table talk during the Tactile Reading Conference in Amsterdam. Sitting around the table were ICVI and the ICEB, the International Council for English Braille, and several other partners actually sitting there. And the team from DAISY Consortium primarily had organized this table talk to discuss about the lack of standardization of Braille in a lot of developing countries. And therefore, it has been very difficult to get the Braille, the correct Braille for many, many languages in the digital Braille world, because unless we have the standards, we can't sort of bring them on platforms like LibreOS or various hardware software solutions. The discussion started there, and immediately it struck that this need to be part of the Braille campaign, which was being discussed between ICVI and WBU. And then after the table talk, Richard's participation in Brazil in the meetings that Pravina just mentioned, we actually zeroed in at least 3 focus areas where DAISY Consortium has offered to play an active role in this Braille campaign starting January 2026. And these focus areas are, the first one being the e-Braille itself. So we have heard about e-Braille in morning today. We need to take e-Braille to all parts of the world, and there are obviously challenges related to its awareness, its adoption for various languages within various solutions, etc. So we are going to partner with the Braille campaign partners to take this message of e-Braille and to amplify this message of e-Braille in all parts of the world with taking benefit of this partnership and campaign. The second area, of course, is about the standardization, which I just mentioned, which was discussed in the table talk in June. That again, WBU and ICVI has offered to take this forward as part of the campaign and also make it part of the World Braille Council agenda. And that is where DAISY Consortium will be able to provide technical support and the directions to this activity. The third area which is there is about Math Braille. And as DAISY Consortium is taking initiatives using MathCat, how Braille can be rendered meaningfully on Braille devices such as the refreshable Braille display, etc., using screen reading softwares. I think that part is going to again help Braille evolve for STEM subjects, and that is where again DAISY Consortium we felt that we could really play a constructive role in taking this agenda forward. So I think we really look forward to a very fruitful partnership, very meaningful campaign, and our involvement in this, in taking Braille forward to the next generation. Over to you, Pravina. Thank you.
Thank you, Dipendra. And I want to end then by a call to action and now invite all members of the DAISY Consortium to support the campaign in some of the following ways. Join the campaign as a supporter, as a partner, and that's the first one. The second one I would like is for you to please nominate technical representatives to participate in the campaign. Working groups, particularly when it comes to areas like MathCat, eBraille, artificial intelligence, etc. And then thirdly, activate your regional and national networks by helping us to connect with ministries, publishers, authorized entities, Braille transcription services who can contribute positively to the campaign. Together, we can expand Braille, learning opportunities, accelerate adoption of eBraille and MathCat, and ensure that Braille remains a modern, powerful, and relevant literacy tool. With that, I want to say thank you to all of you, and thank you, Chair, for this opportunity, and we look forward to the partnership and collaboration. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Pravina, and thank you for this excellent presentation. And also, of course, thanks to Dipendra. So our next item is on the beyond physical distribution, and we hear about the experiences of several of our members who will tell us their experiences of the beyond physical distribution. And the first presentation will be given by Basile from DAISY France. Basile.
Not a presentation, but you had some remarks from DAISY France on, yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought you had a presentation. No, Some remarks, Basile. Sorry.
No, sorry. So there were concern stated in the last DAISY France meeting about how DAISY Consortium should communicate about and participate also about the CD transition. So we talked with several people there, and some countries have stopped CDs. Laurie and Mina, we talked about it. And in France, we're still engraving a lot of CDs, and I think many other countries around the table are still doing it. But we haven't seen in the paper any advocacy from the DAISY Consortium to do some kind of work around that and how we can help our own organization and other organizations to make the transition between CDs and something else.
Well, thank you, Basile. And Mina will also tell us about CDS transition.
Yes. Hello, I'm Minna von Sansen from Celia from Finland. And I don't have a presentation, but I have notes. So I try to be brief and as clear as possible. About moving on from CD distribution. Our board made the decision to stop distributing CDs in June 2024. The reasons were, I guess, technological. Time has moved on. We need to find other solutions to use digitization for our users. And of course, we did have financial constraints as well. We started a project that involved, in the first hand, a lot of communication to our stakeholders and our users who were still at that point very heavily dependent on the CD distribution. And quite quickly, we also started working together with the Finnish Federation of the Visually Impaired, because in Finland, the federation and its Swedish-speaking counterpart, they are in charge of all kinds of players, for example, and other kinds of equipment that users can use. And that's not the task of Celia at all. We would produce and distribute the material, but we don't provide users with the technology other than apps and an online player and so on. So the goal with, we were simultaneously figuring out how to stop using CDs, delivering CDs, and how to create another kind of service to for users that are not able to use a computer or a smartphone or a device like that. So we had an online bookshelf, and what we needed was a listening device. And we tried to create a service that would be sort of device independent, so that people would be able to use different kinds of devices depending on what kind of devices were available. So currently, we're using Sensotex players. There's a Webbox and another player called Daisybox. And I guess the difference between these is that Daisybox has a handle, so you can carry it. Other than that, I'm sure now there's somebody who knows the technology much better than I do, so please object, but I've sort of only seen that difference. There is a handle in Daisybox. So what we did stop lending CDs the 1st of October this year. And actually since the end of May this year, so a couple of months earlier, you were able to borrow a player from the Finnish Federation of the Visually Impaired, have it activated, and continue borrowing books otherwise in the manner that you were used to. So you could call our user services and ask for the books you wanted, or ask our services to recommend you books to read. You could use our online services, or maybe a family member or friend could use online services to borrow books for you. And we also still use the automatic book clubs that you can sign up for, so you receive different kinds of books every month without having to contact anyone. And at the moment, we still have about 3,500 users who have stopped receiving CDs because we have stopped distributing them, and are still not really, they have still not really decided what to do. But we have about 600 of these Webbox and Daisybox players activated, people actively using them. So, and of course we recognize, you know, I've been around for a quarter century, so I remember when we started digitizing our services, when we moved from the compact cassettes. So we lost some people, but with support, encouragement, and a lot of communication, we were able to get most people back. And I think this is going to happen this time as well. We just need a little more time. The biggest problems that we had is that no matter how much information in whichever format, Braille, printed letters directly to your home address, contacts through different stakeholders, presentations at different events, no amount of information is ever enough. You have to keep on repeating the message. And of course, people are very resistant and maybe very unhappy about the change because the service that they've had so far has been working well. And what we noticed that if for a lot of people using the distribution by mail, how quickly they get the books is not really an issue. So it's not always beneficial to say that, you know, you just wait 2 minutes and you have the book in your player. It's not a big deal necessarily, not for everyone at least. And of course, you need connectivity. We tried this about 10 years ago in Finland, and I'm happy to say that connectivity to internet is much better now. It's more widely available, more evenly distributed even than in the rural parts of the country. So that is not really an issue anymore. Of course, at this time, people will have to get their own connection and they will have to pay for it. But otherwise, the service and the players are free of charge. We had some problems with our library management system to get it connected, but I think that's just it's just our library management system, so it can be generalized. And of course, our user services, they also need a lot of support from leadership in our organization because they have been placed under very heavy burden of receiving these calls and emails from people who are really unhappy about the service. And of course, this has also so far resulted in a couple of official complaints that I'm happy to say that we have managed to tackle with the fact that we are really following what's happening with the users. We're communicating constantly with the users and the different stakeholders and putting a lot of effort into support. So, and this is what we're going to continue with extensive support and a lot of communication directly to users and our shareholders. And we're really hoping that nobody will, in the end, stop using the service because they feel unable to use the new kind of service or feel too scared or insecure about it. So that's our experience so far.
Thank you, Minna, for sharing that information with us. And I think that's relevant for all those organizations who are still facing the migration from CD to other kinds of distribution. And Helen from RNIB also has to share their experiences. Please, Helen.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. So yeah, just wanted to share our experiences. So like many of my colleagues around the table, we're also on a journey to stop using physical media, move away from CDs and USBs. However, we have not formally made that decision as yet. So we are just exploring options and trying to learn from other people's experiences before we approach making that decision formally. We have identified the need to have a low-tech alternative solution in place for many of our customers. The reason we need to have this low-tech solution in place is either because people have limited technical knowledge, no access to technology, or simply do not feel comfortable using it. For quite a while now, we have been encouraging digital downloads for all of our customers. And this has had considerable success with new users, but we have a very large group of existing users that are very slow to take up the new offer. So we have this huge group of people that we can't move along the journey that we want to move along. So we have been using Envoy Connects specifically for existing and new blind and partially sighted audiobook listeners. And we are hoping that this is going to plug the gap for us. The Envoy Connect device is used in tandem with a very simple Windows-based app that has 4 steps and works well with a screen reader. Each device has a serial number. Each serial number is logged against our Talking Book library, and as soon as you plug the device in and activate the app, it logs onto the user's account with no need to remember logins or passwords or anything like that. We haven't launched them nationally and they're not publicly available, but we have so far completed 5 pilots in different areas of the UK. So we started with a pilot in the winter of 2023, which is unbelievably 2 years ago now, when we distributed 200 devices out to residents of an area in London. And we asked residents to go to their local library to download their first set of books and be shown how to use the device. We trained 120 library staff to access the device and all the accessible technology, and ran induction sessions with people who received the device. One of our major learning points from this was that under 50% of the customers, so less than 100 out of the 200 people who had devices issues, actually came into the public libraries. So that was a really key point for us in our approach. And all pilots from that point onwards have then issued the device directly to customers rather than through the public library. We then had a bit of a break because there were lots of other things going on. And from August 2025, we've been running another 4 pilots, again in different areas across the country, in conjunction with public libraries who have existing user groups. So we can individually assign the devices, set up a Talking Book account, and help the users use the app. We've had lots of engagement and feedback from customers. The other thing I should say is that we have been distributing much smaller numbers of Envoy Connects since that first pilot where we distributed 200. So we've been working between 10 and 20 devices for each pilot group because we've just found that a lot easier to manage. And in terms of gathering feedback, that has been more useful and enabled us to get more detailed feedback. Feedback overall has been incredibly positive. So we are continuing on the journey to use Envoy Connects. And the next steps are going to be to gather more data and feedback from those pilot groups, to start reaching out to our existing library CD and USB customers to trial that Envoy Connect device. And then we're going to be looking at a potential formal launch at some point during 2026. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Helen. I think that's also important to hear about your experiences and the pilot that you are doing. And well, that can give also inspiration for other organizations around the table who still have to make this migration. Talking about alternatives for the CD distribution and reading DAISY books on CD, there are also some nice readers, like, for example, the low-cost audio reader from Solar Grove. I will ask to Joel Templeton to take the floor and to tell us more about that. Joel.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all for just this opportunity to be able to share with you. And thank you for the kind words on how the players have been going. Our whole goal at Solar Grove is to be able to bridge those gaps. Our players were specifically designed to be low-tech and simple, especially for the very young users that are not going to be able to have access to a smartphone. Children, under 7, 8 years of age, to be able to give them a low-cost technology that would give them access. And those users that would be, let's say 70 plus or new to technology. We've been using them with veterans that have recently lost their sight. And so it's a stepping stone. It helps bridge that gap for them. So our whole goal is to be able to provide something that is globally accessible. And first of all, when we look at that, what does it mean to be globally accessible? First and foremost, our players are solar powered. We have many of our blind users that never plug them in. They just will simply put them on the desk or in the kitchen window where it can get some sunlight. And if they're using it a couple of hours a day, they will never need to plug it in. Our players will, when it's fully charged, will play for about 30 hours before it needs to be recharged. So if you're only using it an hour a day, charge it once a month. Durability. Our devices are made to be shock resistant, heat resistant, and water resistant. So if it falls in the toilet, it will be okay. Just be sure to clean it. But anyway, it's made so children, can have something that's not going to go away. We provide a 2-year guarantee for our devices, and also to be tactile and intuitive, the keypad. One of the things that we do to test is before launching a player, we will hand them off to a test group of blind people, and just show them the power button and see how long it takes them to figure it out. And so we want it to be intuitive. And then lastly, and perhaps most importantly for being globally accessible, is that it be cost effective. And this is one of our main points. And as has been mentioned, our Envoy Connect player was our first player that we launched in partnership with Vision Australia. They have some 5,000 users that are using these on a consistent basis. And it has been a tremendous success story there. But also more globally, because the Connect was made for them with their name, their branding, their color. And so our Solar Grove version is what we call the Vine C1. And it's basically the same player, just in the Solar Grove branding versus what we made for Vision Australia. And like what we have done for Vision Australia, we can do for other organizations and countries. We're speaking with Fundação Dorina in Brazil and others, so that we can make their own player for their library and their library system that will have their color, their logo, and it will be their player, not even, so we don't care about the branding, that it needs to be ours. We launched this past year our first low-cost recorder, and so this is a great little memo recorder. It is the same as the C1 in that it is a book reader, so you do have all that same capacity, but it adds a couple of features that people requested. One was for low vision people, a bright flashlight on the bottom. So this player can be taken to restaurants or theaters where there's low lighting, and they will be able to use the bright flashlight to be able to read the menu or program. And it also adds then the recorder, and you can set up your own folders. We are working to launch by the beginning of next year an even more simple recorder. Then what we provide for education, and these players have a little more complex and more structure, so you can have more file folders. This would be more DAISY compatible. And also for education, we were asked to provide FM radio, because some of the college campuses have local campus radio or community radio stations that they have available. Also has the Vine E1 also has the onboard recorder, similar to the C2. And we use a cell phone microphone, so it's not like studio quality, but it works very well within 20 to 30 centimeters from the mouth. It's not something that you would hold at the back of the room to try to record a professor up front. And this also adds playback speed control. But we were also asked to provide even a more simple player for, let's say, the lower education, where it doesn't, or even, let's say, elderly people that do want the file structure, but don't necessarily want speed control or recorder. And so that's the S1. It's just for schools, and it's just a more simple player. So this can really help be able to move schools and educations from cassettes, CDs, and to be able to provide ebooks. So we've got the devices, you have the content, and we would like to grow together with you and to assist you in making that transition from CDs or even some cassettes to be able to provide devices. I did bring some sample devices with me, and even our latest one, which we call the Sprout, which is basically the size of a business card. So it's a talking business card, and or great for books for children up to an hour and a half long, just simple navigation through the chapters. And I thank you, and I provide the, and I'm also here available for questions, answers later, and or if you need a sample, I did bring a few with me.
Oh, thank you, Joe. And of course, there are also other alternatives. We also have another alternative, which is will be presented to us by Dolphin, and they are going to give a presentation about the Easy Reader.
I think it's best.
Yes,
You're not showing slides, are you? No. Yeah, so I think about the camera works better up here.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Matthias Karlsson, and I am the product manager at Dolphin Computer Access. I'm also a lead developer for Dolphin Easy Reader app. I'm just going to talk briefly what's new in Easy Reader and also what we are working on, what's coming next, and then I will hand over to James. The last year or so, we have been working on a little bit of refreshment of the user interface with the focus on making the app easier to use with better contrast, better colors.
Please speak up, it's hard to hear.
Okay, and bigger icons. So we've been doing this work together with some of the library partners, so that was introduced in version 12 in this summer. Together with this, we also introduced what we call the Braille reader mode. If we detect that you are using a screen reader, there is an alternative reading mode in Easy Reader, which is could be more useful and useful for if you have a connected Braille display. So we present the book's text in a more linear way, so you can read it with your Braille display and use the Braille display buttons to navigate and access the information. So that's also new. We have been making improvements in terms of MathML using the MathCat module, the open source module, and I'm really pleased to hear that the DAISY Consortium is taking over that project. So we have introduced the latest version of MathCat with some new languages and fixes. So in Easy Reader, we have also introduced some AI tools. So we have instead of displaying the help manual in a long document and hard to find the information, we're using the AI help. So you can basically ask a question to the AI and it will respond back to with the answer you need. So the AI help have all the help content, knowledge-based articles, training resources, and it tries to answer your question you have. For our premium services subscribers, which is on a personal plan or education plan,
We have the AI image description feature in there as well. So you can tap on an image and you get an image description. In that one, you can also have a dialogue and ask more questions about the image, which is kind of interesting. So you can continue to ask more and more questions about getting more details, and it will respond back to you. In the premium benefits, we are also introducing text highlighting. So you highlight a section with the colors, and you can, as a study tool, you can go through your red highlighted colors or blue highlighted colors as a productivity and study tool. And yeah, we've got some more related features around that. And for our library partners, we've done some work. We're introducing the ABC Global Books, which is a topic for this afternoon. So I will not speak some more about that now, but it's an exciting thing we're introducing now in EasyReader. And we also made some good work with some other library partners like Calibre Audiobooks from UK. We have a new implementation for Bookshare periodicals, which works much nicer now, and some other news there. What we are working on right now is a couple of different projects. We are working with Arne from TB in Norway to implement the Seroproc TTS Voices into the EasyReader app. And we're also working with SBS to implement support for the audio journals. That goes into your branded SBS Läser Plus app and also the EasyReader app across all platforms. So both those projects we're hoping to be finished soon. Yeah. We are also looking into more AI-powered study tools. So that's a project that we are looking into right now. So you can get more information from the text. So we are looking at getting summaries, flashcards and quizzes, etc. So helping the students to as a productivity and study tool before exam, for example. So that's an exciting bit that we have. I think I need to stop and hand over to you, James.
Okay, thank you. Michael.
Sure.
Hello, everyone. I'm James Green. I'm the CEO of Dolphin, and it's a pleasure to be here today with colleagues from the DAISY Consortium and ABC Global Book Service, and with so many of you who also share Dolphin's vision for a world where reading and learning are accessible to everyone. Before we look ahead, I want to begin with a simple but powerful concept, Shibboleth. In technology, Shibboleth is a federated identity system, a secure way for users to log in once and access many services. For Dolphin, it represents something larger, the principle of connection. It points us towards a future where systems and services work together to remove barriers for readers everywhere. That future is where we call interoperability, and it is the next bold step in inclusive technology. Interoperability is about ensuring that our reading platforms, libraries, and learning tools are no longer separate silos, but part of a connected experience. It means that readers can move seamlessly between their library, their reading apps, carry their preferences, progress with them independently. Through our partnership with the ABC Global Book Service, we are laying the foundations for that future. While full interoperability does not yet exist, this collaboration is our call to action, an open invitation to our peers, funders, and partners to build it together. This call has never been more urgent. In the UK, reading for pleasure among young people has reached its lowest level since 2005. According to the National Literacy Trust, only 1 in 3 children say they enjoy reading in their free time, and just 1 in 5 read something daily. We know that reading for pleasure is directly linked to higher achievement, better well-being, and greater social mobility. Yet engagement is falling fast. That's why the UK government has announced the National Year of Reading 2026, a campaign to reignite our reading culture and inspire a new generation of readers. At Dolphin, we believe that accessibility and technology must be central to that effort. The next generation of Easy Reader will harness AI, gamification, and personalized accessibility tools to re-engage readers, especially those who find traditional reading difficult. Imagine a reading experience where AI helps summarize complex chapters, generates discussion questions, or suggests new titles based on curiosity. Imagine gamified reading journeys that reward progress, foster motivation, and turn learning into a shared experience. But for these innovations to achieve real scale, interoperability is essential. It will allow our systems to connect across borders, languages, and institutions, ensuring that every reader from Nairobi to Newcastle can access knowledge on equal terms. So today, as we celebrate this partnership with ABC, I want to extend an invitation to educators, technologists, libraries, and policymakers to join us in making interoperability the backbone of a more inclusive and more connected reading experience. I look forward to continuing these conversations with you all. Thank you.
Well, thank you, James and Matthias, for this presentation.
Thank you.
So that brings us to the next agenda item, and these are several short updates from different members of the DAISY Consortium. First of all, I have to inform you about the Tactile Graphics Working Group. During the last meeting that we had in Amsterdam, following the Tactile Reading Conference, it became clear that there is a significant need in the field of tactile graphics to exchange knowledge, to collaborate, and to make collections available to each other. And at that time, we agreed that Nicole, Alice, Martin, and I would discuss how we could follow up from this. And a few weeks ago, we had a meeting where Martin from MTM was accompanied by Katinka from MTM. And the shared conclusion was that there is indeed a strong need for knowledge sharing, for international guidelines, for agreements on metadata, and the exchange of files of tactile images. And it is our joint proposal that a core group should map out the priorities in terms of exchange and collaboration, that this core group will also identify which other organizations can join and determine how coordination and cooperation can be practically organized. The core group will consist of the organizations of APH, NLS, MTM, and Dedicon, supplemented by the organizers of the previous tactile reading conferences, StatPed from Norway and SPSM from Sweden. And by next board meeting, I hope to be able, or this core group hopes to be able, to share more information about the work that they have done and how they proceeded in bringing all the forces together which are active in the field of tactile graphics. So that's my short report from that core working group. So next short item that we have to cover is that Minna has to tell us something about Celia.
Oh.
You didn't expect that?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just thinking what to say. Okay. I'm assuming this is about the merger. So Celia, Accessibility Library Celia is, as many other organizations during the years and maybe during the past years, we are merging from the 1st of January 2026 with the Finnish National Archives and the Finnish Repository Library. And now you might ask why the National Archives. I don't know. I don't know either. I guess the usual partner in this case would be the National Library, but in Finland, for historical reasons, the National Library is not a state agency. It's part of the University of Helsinki, so that's where we're not leaving the government and to merge with the National Library, but we're staying and we're going to merge with the National Archives. And from the beginning of next year, Accessibility Library Cilia will not disappear from the map entirely. It will form its own department within the National Archives. And a current colleague of mine is going to be the head of the department. And who will represent the Finnish DAISY consortium on the DAISY board, I don't know yet, because that decision is obviously up to the Finnish DAISY consortium board to make. And we're gonna have the meeting in a couple of weeks. I'm hoping one of my colleagues from current Cilia will take it up, because this is very much his field. But we shall see, because there are several partners in the forming consortium. So we'll see if there are other parties interested and so on. But I'd really like to thank you for these years. You know, one of my former colleagues, Markku, some of you remember him. He was a part of DAISY board for a long time, and he stepped down, and now he's happily retired, doing lots of degrees and enjoying art and whatnot. For those of you who know him, you know that's the way it is. Yeah, that's Markku for you. And now it's time for me to say goodbye to all of you and say thank you very much for these years and all your friendship and assistance and help and great discussions and other happy memories that I will carry with me. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Minna. Thank you for sharing this. And also, I think I can say on behalf of the board that we will miss you, and that we hope that we will almost impossibly get an as well good represented back on this table. So thank you. So there is one other item, and that has to be covered by Michael from Benetech, and he is going to tell us something about BASE and GCA developments. Michael.
Yes, thank you, Martin. I just wanted to give the group an update on a couple of programs that Benetech has been working on, some for many years, some for just 1 year. So GCA stands for Global Certified Accessible. We're starting our 8th year now, and this is the process where we work with the publishing community around the world, including one in Finland, SPS in Finland, to teach the publishers how to create fully accessible content from the beginning. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on how that process works, but I'm open for any questions or comments anyone has, either this morning or this afternoon, or whatever time it is there, or to reach out to me directly. There are other services in the GCA suite, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit. We have approval services for publishing platforms. There are a few companies that are exploring that. And perhaps the most interesting and strongest growing one now is the Benetech approved EdTech tool. So we are assessing educational technology tools, basically any systems or apps that are being sold in the educational environment. These could be library management systems, learning management systems, mathematical programs, whatever they happen to be. So between GCA, the main publisher program, and then this EdTech service we're offering. We now are engaged with 2 of the 4 major Basel core textbook publishers in K-12 in the United States. And so that's very exciting. And again, more details for anybody who wants to reach out to me directly. BASE is a program that we've been piloting throughout this calendar year, 2025. It stands for Benetech Accessibility Services for Education. And quite a departure from our typical processes, we are now working directly with the educational institutions to assess their accessibility progress. So we do a digital assessment of all of their websites and other digital content or tools that the educational institutions themselves create or control. We also help them with the maturity model, which Charles Lapierre adopted and adapted from the W3C's overall accessibility maturity model. We're offering some training as well, and we're looking at remediation, although just between us, I'm a little shy about that, as remediating into educational institutions becomes much more complicated just to find out who owns it and where it is located, as opposed to what you need to do to remediate the content itself. So these 2 programs are growing, and they are feeding each other. Basically, we go into an educational institution, say a community college or a university, and we talk about the tools they have, and we explain to them, oh, that thing you're using to do this isn't fully accessible, so that's going to need to be addressed. And then the vendor who made that thing comes to us and says, will you help us bring our tools up into full accessibility? So a very quick review of a lot of work by a lot of people, but I just want to let you know that the suite of services offered by Benetech continues on our mission drive to make the educational environment as accessible as possible across all aspects. And that's really it. Thank you.
May I add a little bit?
Yes, please, George.
So in the United States in April next year, Title II of the ADA will impact all public institutions that receive money. So like the EAA, all of the content and all of the software that's used in the schools is supposed to be accessible. And it's the responsibility of the schools and libraries to make sure that that's happening. So the BASE program that Michael describes is responding to that need for the schools to get their act together. And this is helping them find their way in an area that many of them are very confused about right now.
Thank you for that, George. It presents the opportunity for me to bring forward something in a tremendously unusual circumstance. The United States government has passed legislation which is stronger in civil rights and protections than the European Union. And by that, I mean, there are no off-ramps here. There's no way to avoid this. You can't say if you're a software vendor, there's no undue burden clause. Or actually, there is technically an undue burden clause, but basically you would have to say, if I do this, my business would close. So that won't hold up. And it is much broader in the sense of anything which appears on a computer screen is impacted by this legislation. So it's not just ebooks, it's not just pamphlets, it's not just educational material. For the institutions that are public facing, anything on a computer screen. So it could be, here's how I sign up my child for primary school. Here is the football schedule. Here's a camping trip that the camping club's going on. If it shows up on a computer screen and impacts students, staff, or the general public, it is covered under this law. So again, in a very rare circumstance, the United States government's been more aggressive on a civil rights issue than the European Union.
There is one question. If you can keep it short, Andrew. Dave, please.
Yes, basically just a quick statement. You know, in the U.S., colleges and universities traditionally did individual accommodations for people. They gave somebody a textbook or whatnot, but they didn't fix their systems. And this is now requiring them to fix their systems so everything is accessible.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Michael, for your presentation. And that brings us to our last agenda item before closing this meeting. That is any other business. So one of the board members who has something for any other business? If not, then I would like to say some words to the host of this meeting, and that is WIPO, and that is especially Monica, who made it possible that we are meeting here at WIPO. And I think that's well, something special. We've been here 6 years ago, and the relationship between WIPO and the DESI Consortium is a long-standing and special relationship, which is dating back years before the Marrakesh Treaty. One of my first moments, it was not on behalf of the DESI Consortium, but I was a delegate from the EFLA LPD, and I was supposed to be just an observer at the general meeting where one of the representatives of the World Blind Union would give a speech. But a few moments before he started his speech, he fell ill. And so I had to make the speech. So after all, everything went okay, and years later, we had this wonderful Marrakesh Treaty. So that's my first memory to the cooperation with WIPO. Of course, we have still a very good cooperation with WIPO as the DESI Consortium. We are giving support. WIPO is also giving support and training for producers of accessible materials. WIPO is giving through ABC also a global platform of the exchange of accessible materials, which is really wonderful, I think. And ABC is also promoting accessible publishing. So those are just some of the things that the cooperation between WIPO and ABC and the DESI Consortium makes us a really strong force in this field. But of course, we are very glad that we are here, that we are also able to join next meeting of the ABC, which will take place this afternoon at 2 o'clock sharp, as you said, Monica. And to thank you especially, I have brought a present for you, especially from the Netherlands. Most of the board members know this kind of present. It's not very original, but it's typical Dutch. And they are the so-called stroopwafels. Yes, sure.
Does it here?
Yes.
Come over.
Thank you very much, Martin, and thank you, Richard. I just wanted to say a few impromptu words. I'm actually very touched by what you said, and it's always a pleasure to have the DESI, well, it's the second time to have the DESI board here, but always to see you because I've long attended the DESI board meetings. But there's one thing I wanted to say. I was saying to Flavia last night, and this is actually very heartfelt, without DESI, there would be no ABC. DESI was a founding partner of the Accessible Books Consortium. You're a very important part of this initiative of the consortium. But also, I wanted to thank all of you who are sitting around the table, because without all of you, without all of your contributions to the collection, to the ABC Global Book Service, there would be no platform. Many of the authorized entities sitting around this table were the first members. They believed in back when it was Tiger, when it was the stakeholders platform. You believed in it. It was before even, I think, Marrakesh. It was actually before me. I just really wanted to thank all of you because you had faith in the initiative, in this global community, in the idea of making information and books accessible to everybody. And it's through your contributions that we are able to have this platform of 1 million titles. But it's really, DAISY has been a critical part of that. So I really wanted to acknowledge that. It's heartfelt, it's sincere, and you've all made a really huge difference. So thank you to all of you. And thank you again for these, what are they called in Dutch? I can't say it.
They're called stroopwafels.
Stroopwafels.
Almost,
I
almost good.
I know I like them, but I can't pronounce them. In any event, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Monica, and thank you all for this wonderful meeting. Also, a goodbye and thank you to the online participants. Thank you for joining.